Intimacy of touch with moon in Ashlesha Nakshatra, coiling contact, serpent soothe. For your Ashlesha moon, touch is a binding force, subtle, magnetic, and coiling with emotional charge. Ruled by the Nagas and nestled in the final degrees of Cancer, Ashlesha embodies the paradox of emotional seduction and psychological defense. You do not touch lightly. When you reach for someone, you are not simply touching skin, you are mapping their nervous system, instinctively searching for psychic openings, emotional sincerity, or hidden motives. To you, intimacy through touch is not casual. It's penetrative, curling, and coded. A brush of the hand might signal comfort or warning. A lingering hold is not just affection, it is energetic entwinement. You want your touch to anchor, to probe, to possess, but also to soothe. There's often a dual edge, the ability to heal through physical connection, and the equal ability to withdraw into energetic silence when your emotional radar picks up even a hairline crack in trust. Your lunar nature here is serpentine, not in deceit, but in sensitivity. You wind yourself around those you love with care, but if you sense danger, you can just as easily slither away, emotionally silent, physically distant, touch retracted. What most don't realize is that your touch carries both comfort and caution. You give it only when you feel emotionally safe, and you pull back when you feel emotionally endangered. In safe, bonded relationships, your physical intimacy is hypnotic and transformative. You may instinctively know how to stroke away tension, where to press, how to wrap your arms so someone forgets the world exists beyond your breath. Sexual touch for you is layered. It is psychological, energetic, and healing. You may even withhold it intentionally, not out of rejection, but as a way to draw out deeper emotional truth. But you are also capable of entanglement. Touch can become a method of control or fusion if you feel insecure. This is the shadow of Ashlesha, reaching out to soothe anxiety, only to unknowingly grip too tightly. In these moments, touch can shift from balm to bind, and the key lies in your own emotional self-regulation. To deepen this form of intimacy, say, "When I touch, I merge. I need presence, not just proximity." Or, "I give physical affection when I trust what I feel underneath the surface." Your love doesn't live in visible gestures. It lives in energy transfer. You wrap your care like a snake around its tree, protective, primal, permanent. And when someone knows how to receive your touch with reverence, not fear, not suspicion, but reverence, you unfold. Your body becomes a temple of transmission, not just desire, but emotional depth, not just comfort, but psychic witnessing. Because for your Ashlesha moon, intimacy of touch is not about stimulation. It is about surrender. Surrendering into emotional fusion, into the unseen, into a love that coils with memory, meaning, and magic. Intimacy of sensate with moon in Ashlesha Nakshatra, sensuality as psychic surveillance. For your Ashlesha moon, sensate intimacy is not passive reception, it is intuitive absorption. Ruled by the Serpentine Nagas and anchored in Cancer's emotional body, your sensory system is not just sensitive, it's strategic. You don't merely experience sights, sounds, and textures. You read them, decode them, and translate them into emotional data. Your senses are wired for protection and power, yet paradoxically, they also seek fusion and ecstasy. You are not aroused by the obvious. You are seduced by what is hidden in plain sight. A flicker in someone's voice, the scent they wore 3 days ago that still lingers in your memory, the way their jaw tightens when they lie. You feel safest and most connected when your environment speaks to your instinctual intelligence, not just your comfort. Your sense of smell is profound. Fragrance can repulse or arouse, trigger memory or open portals. A single whiff of an ex-lover's cologne, an incense used during heartbreak, or even the subtle smell of skin can shape your emotional reality for hours. Likewise, sound is psychic atmosphere for you. You prefer silence with texture, whispers, rainfall, music with minor chords, voices with emotional curvature. Touch for you is energetic before it's physical. You can sense someone's inner state through a handshake. You may even avoid certain textures, environments, or people because their energy doesn't feel right against your aura. Your moon isn't just reactive, it is boundary sensitive and scans for emotional congruence in every sensory layer. Sight, especially eye contact, is either deeply intimate or completely avoided. If you lock eyes, it's because you're studying not the face, but the psyche. You can't unsee subtle betrayals or emotional inconsistencies, which is why visual space must feel safe before it can feel close. You are drawn to sensory patterns that offer both mystery and consistency. A darkened room lit by candlelight, the repetition of a lover's voice, a body wrapped in silk or cotton that matches your emotional mood. These details aren't aesthetic, they are anchors for your inner serpent to unwind. But your challenge lies in over-attunement. Your senses can become flooded when your psychic boundaries are down, leading to overstimulation, suspicion, or shutting down altogether. In chaos, your moon retreats. It needs energetic purification before it can open again. To deepen this intimacy, say, I don't just sense, I absorb. I need my surroundings to be energetically honest and emotionally coherent. Or, I feel safest when my senses are met with subtlety and depth, not noise or performance. When met with sensory congruence, your Ashlesha Moon becomes a sensual oracle. You don't just experience intimacy, you embody psychic recognition. The scent of a neck becomes a memory vault. The texture of sheets becomes an emotional mirror. The tone of a voice becomes a permission slip to drop your guard. Because for you, sensate intimacy isn't about stimulation, it's about scanning for soul signal. And when you find it, your senses don't just feel, they bind. They bless, they bewitch. Intimacy of kindness with Moon in Ashlesha Nakshatra, tenderness beneath the venom. For your Ashlesha Moon, kindness is not sentiment, it is sacred disarmament. Ruled by the Serpentine Nagas, your emotional body is wrapped in psychic coils, ever alert to manipulation, betrayal, or false sweetness. You are deeply intuitive and emotionally complex, and because of this, you do not trust easily, especially when kindness appears too polished or performative. You can sense insincerity before it fully forms. To you, kindness must be felt in the aura, not just spoken aloud. A soft glance that doesn't demand, a hand that lingers for grounding, not possession. Words that arrive without the agenda of being thanked. When someone is genuinely kind, your defenses do not melt immediately. They coil tighter first, waiting to see if the tenderness is real. But once proven, your inner serpent loosens, and you begin to wrap your loyalty around that person for life. You offer kindness in deeply intuitive ways, shielding others from emotional storms without them knowing, saying just what needs to be heard, not more, not less. You're the kind to notice a partner's unraveling before they've even admitted it to themselves. Your kindness is precise, protective, sometimes hidden, but always intentional. Yet you rarely ask for kindness in return. Your emotional pride and secret sensitivity make it hard to admit when you're struggling. You may downplay your needs, hide your hurt behind sarcasm, or isolate rather than ask for help. But when someone shows up anyway, with non-intrusive, attuned, patient care, your moon takes notice. That's the kind of kindness that heals your roots. Your challenge is learning that you don't have to earn kindness through usefulness or emotional intelligence. You don't have to predict everyone's needs just to feel safe being seen. You are allowed to be cared for without decoding the energy in every room. To deepen this form of intimacy, say, kindness doesn't have to be grand for me to feel it. It just has to be clean and true. Or, I feel safest when I'm met with quiet understanding, not forced empathy. Because for your Ashlesha Moon, kindness is not about sweetness. It's about energy integrity. It's about whether someone can hold space without manipulating it, whether they can speak softly without needing to be praised for it, whether they can witness your most coiled, protective self without flinching or trying to fix it. And when you're met with that kind of kindness, you unlock your rarest gift. Fierce, generational loyalty. The kind that shelters, the kind that shields, the kind that once earned, never uncoils. Intimacy of growth with Moon in Ashlesha Nakshatra, evolving through emotional alchemy. For your Ashlesha Moon, growth is never linear. It is serpentine, secretive, and deeply alchemical. Ruled by the Nagas and seated in the emotional waters of Cancer, your evolution is fueled not by outer milestones, but by inner metamorphosis. You grow through the labyrinth of emotional unraveling. And so, any relationship that dares to walk beside you must be prepared to transform just as profoundly. You do not seek surface-level change. You seek cellular shifts, soul-deep renewal born from emotional reckoning, not performance. And while others may grow through sunshine and support, you often grow through shadow, through betrayal that reveals boundaries, through loss that cracks open intuition, through intimacy that burns away illusion. This makes your intimacy with growth both sacred and intense. You don't want a partner who simply supports your dreams. You want someone who can hold space for your molting, your shedding skins, your unravelings, your silences. Someone who understands that your growth often happens in spirals, in silence, in the hidden places where words fail but instincts sharpen. You support others' growth with psychic precision. You instinctively know what people are ready for, even before they do. You encourage, but you also expose. Your love guides with truth, not flattery. Your nurturing is transformative, not coddling. But this also means your energy can feel overwhelming for those not ready to meet their own shadows. The challenge for your Ashlesha Moon is learning not to coil around someone else's path, not to become over-entangled in their evolution. You must remember, you are not responsible for saving others from the deaths required for their rebirths. Nor must you downplay your own growth to stay connected to someone afraid of change. To deepen this form of intimacy, say, I evolve through emotional truth, not comfort. I need space for my soul to molt and be met without fear. Or, I grow best when I'm allowed to withdraw, regenerate, and return in my own rhythm. When growth is mutual, when you're with someone who honors your silence as much as your insight, who trusts your need to cocoon without interpreting it as withdrawal, you become one of the most transformative forces of love. Because for you, growth is never just personal. It is emotional shape-shifting. It is soul magic through shedding. And when shared with someone attuned enough to walk beside your serpent path, it becomes a journey of sacred evolution. From secrecy to safety, from survival to sacred union. Intimacy of activity with Moon in Ashlesha Nakshatra. Shared motion, hidden meaning. For your Ashlesha Moon, activity is not about what you're doing. It's about what's happening underneath it. Ruled by the mystical Nagas and anchored in Cancer's introspective waters, you are never just hanging out or doing errands. You are tracking emotional currents, scanning for hidden meaning, unspoken signals, and psychic resonance in every interaction. You are deeply particular about who you share time and space with. You can feel when someone's energy is off, even if their words say otherwise, and you would rather be alone than enmeshed in energy that feels chaotic, hollow, or performative. You're sensitive to subtle shifts, the tone someone uses while inviting you somewhere, the unspoken emotional dynamic at a group dinner, or even the physical layout of a shared space. So for you, intimacy of activity thrives in energetic compatibility, not constant togetherness. You bond most deeply when you and your partner move through the world with shared awareness, even in silence. A long drive with music and no need to talk. Organizing a space while listening to each other's breath more than their words. Cooking together not as a task, but as a ritual of co-regulation. These acts build emotional circuitry for you. You prefer rituals over spontaneity. Surprise plans can make your nervous system contract, but a partner who knows your rhythms and honors your psychic pacing can unlock a rare emotional stability in you. You don't need elaborate dates or constant activity. You need meaningful movement that respects your inner tides. Still, your challenge lies in control and coiling. If you feel emotionally threatened or unsafe, you may try to dominate shared plans, becoming rigid or suspicious of how others spend time apart from you. Activity can become a tool for containment rather than connection. The key is learning to trust your emotional intuition without using it to preemptively defend against imagined betrayal. To deepen this form of intimacy, say, I feel closest when we share space in a way that honors both our energy and emotional timing. Or, activity isn't about doing things together, it's about feeling emotionally safe in the doing. Because for your Ashlesha Moon, shared motion is not logistical, it's energetic choreography. You don't want to be dragged into activity to prove love. You want to be invited into sacred alignment, where each task becomes a ritual of attunement. And when that happens, when a partner understands that presence is more important than productivity, you open. You allow your coils to relax. And you move through life, not in defense, but in deeply shared soul-level direction. Intimacy of allowance with Moon in Ashlesha Nakshatra. Permission to be the mystery. For your Ashlesha Moon, allowance is the highest act of love, because you rarely feel truly allowed. Governed by the Serpentine Nagas and submerged in Cancer's emotional depths, you carry layers upon layers of instinct, emotion, memory, and psychic reflex. You feel safest behind veils, and most loved when someone doesn't try to lift them before you're ready. You are emotionally complex. One day tender, the next withdrawn, sometimes full of fierce nurturing, sometimes coiled in self-protection. And yet, your longing is simple. Let me be what I am today, without forcing me to explain, without trying to fix or fuse or decode. For you, intimacy of allowance means someone can sit with your changing moods, your quiet spirals, your sharp insights and shadowy silences, without mistaking them for instability. You are not unstable. You are sensitive to energetic fluctuations. You are tuned into the invisible. You are adapting, internally and invisibly, all the time. You offer this same allowance to others, too, when you're grounded. You can be incredibly accepting of a partner's emotional tides, intuitively knowing when to approach and when to give space. But if your own emotional needs have been long ignored or manipulated, your moon can become hyper-vigilant, trying to control the emotional tone of the relationship. You might become more reactive, more suspicious, more emotionally coiled. The wound here is this. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being emotionally complex made you difficult to love. So you learned to hide parts of yourself, to mask the moods, to shrink your intuition. But real intimacy for you begins the moment you are allowed to exist without censorship. To deepen this form of intimacy, say, I don't always know how I feel right away. I need space to move through things without being forced into clarity. Or, I feel safest with people who can hold mystery without needing to solve it. Because for your Ashlesha Moon, emotional freedom is not indulgent, it's essential. You don't want to be managed. You want to be trusted. You don't want to be handled. You want to be held lightly, wisely, patiently. And when that happens, when you are allowed to coil, shed, and soften in your own timing, you give back something rare, a kind of presence that can sit with anyone's shadow. A love that understands nothing in nature blooms all the time. A devotion that doesn't just accept you when you're bright, but even more so when you're dim and divine. Intimacy of giving with Moon in Ashlesha Nakshatra, protection as offering, emotion as potion. For your Ashlesha Moon, giving is a ritual of energetic transfer. You don't give lightly, and you certainly don't give blindly. What you offer is precise, potent, and often cloaked in silence. Ruled by the Serpentine Nagas and dwelling in the psychic waters of Cancer, your giving is never about the material. It's about emotional medicine. The right word, the right gaze, the right gesture at the exact moment someone didn't even know they needed it. You give like a healer, like a sorcerer, like an ancestral priest. Not because you want credit, but because you can feel where something is fraying, leaking, unraveling. And your instinct is to seal it. Quietly, powerfully, permanently. You offer warmth in the form of shielding. If someone's in pain, you become their wall. If someone's overwhelmed, you absorb it. If someone's uncertain, you whisper exactly what they needed to hear, not for manipulation, but because you felt the ache before they voiced it. But there is shadow here too. Your gifts often go unseen because they are subtle. Others don't realize how much emotional weight you carry, how much negativity you absorb, how many needs you meet without being asked. And so, you may begin to feel unacknowledged. Or worse, used. This can lead to emotional coiling, where giving becomes a test, a quiet trap, or a form of control. Your challenge is learning this truth. You are not required to prove your love through overfunctioning. Your intuition is sacred, but you do not have to weaponize it to earn closeness or keep people near. The highest form of your giving emerges when you offer without attachment, and when you're also open to receiving. Not just gratitude, but protection, presence, and psychic rest in return. To deepen this form of intimacy, say, I give from instinct, not obligation, but I feel closest when my giving is met with reverence, not reliance. Or, I offer protection and care naturally. What I need in return is honesty, respect, and space to rest. Because for your Ashlesha Moon, giving isn't about resources, it's about energetic alchemy. You pour emotional intelligence into your offerings. You encode care into silence. You send healing through eye contact and fierce loyalty through action. You don't give to be seen. You give because you see what others miss. And when that is honored, when someone recognizes your quiet sorcery, you unfold. You give even more deeply, more richly, more magically, because your giving is never random. It is ancient. It is intimate. It is how your serpent soul says, "You are mine, and I will not let you fall." Intimacy of receiving with Moon in Ashlesha Nakshatra, letting the serpent be soft. For your Ashlesha Moon, receiving is the final initiation of trust. You are a natural giver, an emotional protector, a psychic attuner. You coil around those you care for, tracking their needs, anticipating their moods, shielding their vulnerabilities. But when the energy reverses, when someone offers you tenderness, care, or protection, you often tense. Not because you don't want it, but because your body is still deciding if it's safe to let it in. Ruled by the ancient Nagas and dwelling in Cancer's subterranean waters, your moon is built for emotional absorption, not vulnerability. You can take in everyone's pain and still keep your own heart armored. You've learned to survive by sensing everything, giving strategically, and staying in control of emotional flow. So when someone tries to give to you, freely, without agenda, it may feel unfamiliar, even suspicious. What do they want? Will they drop me if I open too far? Will I owe them something I can't give back? These questions don't make you cold. They make you cautious. Because your heart is not unfeeling. It is ferociously loyal. And that loyalty is sacred. You don't give it to just anyone. But true intimacy for you begins when you realize you deserve to be nourished, not just needed. You deserve to receive love, not just manage it. You are not a fortress. You are a vessel. And you can receive without unraveling. In fact, the deepest restoration for your Ashlesha Moon comes when you are allowed to feel emotionally held, without performing strength, without fixing anything in return. The kind of receiving you crave is clean, subtle, energetically reverent. Someone drawing you a bath, letting you rest without explanation, listening without interruption, giving you time to open, and loving you anyway if you don't. Your challenge is letting the coils loosen, letting someone rub your back not because it hurts, but because you exist, letting compliments land, letting softness in, letting someone see you in your unguarded form, not for analysis, but for adoration. To deepen this intimacy, say, "I'm learning to receive love slowly. I feel safest when it's offered gently without pressure." Or, "When someone gives to me without needing anything back, it rewires something ancient in me." Because for your Ashlesha Moon, receiving is not indulgence. It is healing. It is the moment the serpent stops coiling and finally rests. Not because the world is safe, but because love is. And when you do receive fully, freely, your intimacy becomes transcendent. You offer devotion without defense. You offer presence without tension. And in doing so, you remind others, even the protectors deserve to be protected. Even the alchemists deserve to be poured into. Even the serpent deserves to be held.